Hello. Welcome to our Take Note podcast with Keli and Ananda. My name is Ananda, and that's Keli. Oh, that's Keli. How are you doing, Keli?
I am fantastic. Um, I'm just wondering. I'm kind of hoping. I have the desire that people are going to participate, but I can't see questions and stuff. So I hope you can.
Yes, yeah, they'll come up. If you are watching, please let us know. Give a little shout out, a little heart
Tell
bowl.
us where you're from. Where are you
Tell us
from,
where you're
Ananda?
from. I'm from a few places now.
Well,
I'm
where are you right now?
broadcasting. I'm broadcasting from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Have you heard of that
Wow.
place?
I have. Yeah, I
Ypsilanti,
can't say
Michigan.
it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, a lot of people can't say it, and even more people can't spell it. But it exists.
It's got a silent Y, a silent Q, and a silent R somewhere in the
The Z is at the end.
west.
Well, we're very excited to be here. Um, we are creating a community where we together will discover our creative potential within the lifestyle, science, and culture of Bhakti. And what that means is through live performances with different artists and special guests, in depth discussions, and various presentations, we'll dive into that creative potential that is inherent with all living entities and how that is reflected in our experience of bhakti. And so we're very gracious to be with you all. Please keep writing in. We got Heather from Sandy Ridge, North Carolina. We
Hey
have
Heather.
Anantacharya from London,
Hey Ananta.
and your mum. She's here too,
Hey Mum. She's always
Miss
there for me.
Mrs. Goldring. She's awesome.
She's great.
I can't wait to meet her. So today's episode is called Big Dreams, Small Steps, and this was inspired by an idea that you shot out to me, and so I wanted to start just by asking you, Keli Prabhu,
Mm.
what does that mean for you? What is why did that come to the surface when we were talking about starting this inaugural podcast, this inaugural Take Note podcast? Why did that jump to the surface for you?
Well, I like to discuss topics that are both kind of provide both solace but also challenge.
Mm,
Um, I think it's important that we are always kind of pushed a little bit in
mm,
terms of our worldview, our
mm,
current paradigms of existence, the way we navigate through the world. And life should be like that, in my opinion. It should be dynamic. It should be
mm,
evolving. It should be linear. We'd like it to be linear, but usually it's dynamic, it's fluid, it's
mm,
unexpected to say the least. So this kind of this concept of big
mm,
dreams and small steps, I thought was something relevant for us to discuss initially,
mm,
because if we look to the yoga texts of the East,
mm,
there's a lot of information there about the soul, and one aspect of the soul is desire. And we
mm,
see this theme come up a lot. So everyone has dreams. They can be small dreams or big dreams. But I thought it would be interesting for us today, at least to commence this incredible podcast and platform we've been given. I thought it'd be good to discuss this concept of like, well, what is a dream? Should we
mm,
have one? What's a material dream? What's a spiritual dream? How do we achieve these dreams and these
mm,
goals? We live in a society of like get rich quick and
mm,
um, this disposable era.
mm,
We have one model, we use that model, we dispose of it, we get the next one.
mm.
So that's kind of what I thought could could both be relevant but also challenging
Yeah.
for us. Just to think like, what's a valid dream? Should we have dreams? Should we abandon them? How do we achieve them? What's
Mm,
a dream for an artist? What's a dream for a spiritualist? What's a dream for a materialist? Can we reconcile all these things? Does that make any sense, Ananda?
Yeah, well, 100% actually, and I appreciate this uh, kind of angle that you're already coming from. Is that there should be an element of well, that you seek after an element of challenge in
Hmm.
life, right? That you have a concept, you have an idea that on one hand is very familiar, and at the same time it could be very challenging. And that in that space, there's a lot of growth that can happen.
Hmm.
Recently, our friend Yamuna Bihari,
Hmm.
he was sharing with me and a few others a section from this book, and I was just thinking of it as you spoke, and I didn't think to get the title of the book. I'm forgetting what it is now. But he was speaking about this idea that every living entity is interested in increase. We're all trying to increase something,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We're attracted by increase. When things are expanding, that's attractive to us. And indeed it's our very nature. The nature of the absolute truth is always expanding, and we're part and parcel of that.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought of that because you're talking about what is our dream, what is that thing that we're looking to expand, what is that thing we're looking to increase in our life, and everyone I'm sure has something. If you're listening, actually, this we want to keep this really interactive. So what are you trying to increase in your life right now?
Hmm.
What is it that you're looking to increase? It could be anything. Could be your absorption, could be your focus, could be your, finances, could be your relationship quality, anything really. And a big part of creativity in my experience is that it's really about increase as well. You're increasing the value, even if it's just aesthetic, the aesthetic value of life. You're
Hmm.
increasing the thoughtfulness. You're increasing so many things just with creativity in general. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I was thinking about entertainment,
Hmm.
and like I love this theme you're going down of increase, um, prospects and increase. And it seems that we do have that potential. Every human being has a potential to to add something in some kind of way, whether it's add something to a relationship, add something to society, whatever it is. And I was just thinking about entertainment because I came across a very nice little etymological nugget the other
Hmm.
day from an Italian friend. They were saying that the word entertainment comes from, well, in Italian anyway, it's divertimento, which comes from a Latin root, divertere, which
Hmm.
literally means to turn away from truth.
Hmm.
And I was just thinking about this. Where are all these dreams sold to us? Like this is the pinnacle or perhaps the plateau of consumerism and capitalism. Is first you create the illusion of decrease or of something missing in someone,
Hmm.
like first you create these insecurities within people, and at the same time you sell them the solution, you
Hmm.
know so this is like entertainment and the media and the Western kind of ideals. They're sold to us in usually in this kind of fashion.
Hmm.
But when you take to a spiritual path, my experience anyway,
Hmm.
your dreams change. And I was saying this to my friend. It seems that when you genuinely take to a spiritual path, your external reality becomes less real,
Hmm.
and your internal reality becomes more real. It's a very strange transition to go through. But I was saying to you earlier, Ananda, like perhaps perhaps your dreams before were to increase your bank balance, to increase your number of cars, to increase your number
Hmm.
of partners, to increase your number of followers on social media. But then perhaps a spiritual alternative is to increase the amount of time you meditate every day, to increase the amount of humility you have, to increase the
Hmm.
amount of virtues you possess.
Hmm.
And then these things, when you juxtapose them, seem very contradictory, no? Like what might seem as increase for the spiritualist seems like decrease for the materialist, and vice versa. But then, can we somehow integrate these these dreams? Can we have material dreams? Can we desire profit and wealth and fame and these things? But is there a way we can integrate them into a spiritual paradigm? And if so, how do we get there? How do we achieve these dreams? You know, like what's the process? Especially in time of like, I want it now, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna try the next thing. And
Yeah, like this the potency that patience has,
mm,
right? And thinking even with the title "Big Dreams and Small Steps," there's a song you're gonna share with us at the
I
end.
hope
This is a
so, if
song
there's
that,
time.
yeah, the song that you've written. Uh, that with big dreams it takes small steps. One thing I was thinking about as you kind of broke down the that beautiful etymological nugget. Another etymological nugget that I've thought of is the word muse, right?
Right.
And I wanted to look up the actual definition, like the dictionary definition of muse. And I don't know if I can do that without messing anything up, but um, muse, as far as my understanding, is it means, being consumed by something, but in an uplifting manner,
Mm,
in a way in which that one is enriched by
mm.
that muse. They're generally it's, oh, they've been my muse. It could be a person, it could be an
Something
infatuation,
inspiring, no?
inspiring. Yeah, there's a one gains spirit
Mm,
from a muse, right? One gains, one grows, one increases from a muse. And then, in Sanskrit we have the transforming sound ah, which then reverses things. And it's interesting when you see that in English. So we have muse and we have amusement, right?
mm,
It's the exact opposite. But the effect could almost be the same, in the sense of it could look the same, rather. The
mm,
effect could almost look the same. One is being amused by something, they become absorbed, they become transfixed in it,
mm. Can
right?
you? I was just going to say, because we're talking about words,
Yeah.
there's probably people watching this who have never come across the Sanskrit language before, which we're familiar with through practicing yoga and stuff. So, like one example, the first one that comes to my head is we have this word himsa, which means envy. And by putting an A at the beginning of that word, you have ahimsa, which means like compassion or non-violence. So just to clarify this point that you're making for people,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very interesting. Um, yeah, sorry, carry on. I just wanted to.
Yeah, well, and it's so thinking about amusement, and I think of entertainment and amusement. I've thought of this term, and I've written a song kind of with this idea in it, that we're confused by amusement,
Mm,
right? There's so much. I mean, millions and millions and millions of hours of videos that I can just get consumed with, of
mm,
people doing amazing things, right? This brings me into the realm of comparison. What to speak of going after a big dream, right? Say I want to be a musician. Say I want to be a great artist, a great writer, a great anything. There are millions of people doing the same thing as I want to do. And a lot of them, especially like as a musician, a lot of them are better. There's, a lot of writers are better, and a lot. So this kind of amusement culture, the entertainment culture, can take us away really from, I think, what we're kind of looking to talk about, like what is actually success,
mm,
right? Like what it takes us away. It makes success something external. It makes success formulaic.
mm.
It makes success something I can share and document and market,
Mm.
right?
That's
But
yeah, that's incredible.
what do you think?
I think you're incredible. I think you're incredible. You're just kind of blowing my mind right now. But like also what you've said has made me think about mercy. This word mercy. I was reading about this word this morning,
Hmm.
and talking about like fanatics,
Hmm.
right? people, it's so easy for us to become obsessed, like you're saying. It's so easy for us to become amused, and entertained and diverted. And you have people that like they become fanatical about something. You can be fanatical about music, you can be fanatical about art, you can be fanatical about Bitcoin, you can be fanatical about God, right? It goes on. As many amusements as there is also equal opportunity to be a fanatic. But we were talking about mercy and how mercy is like this divine principle that you can become exposed to, or that can expose itself to you in life. And this definition came up, how like a fanatic sees success as basically trying to when they're molding the world in such a way, and the world just so happens to fall into that formula that they've created, right? So if we're talking about God, then it's like the fanatic would think this is what spirituality means, or liberation means, or self-realization means, and I'm going to fit God into that picture. That's like a fanatic. But then the opposite, like someone that's truly authentically practicing and prospering, they see how they can fit into God's world instead of try and make God fit into their world. And this is mercy. Like mercy doesn't have a formula, it's unexpected.
Independent.
It's independent. It doesn't have it doesn't work, within a box and a category, and that you can't package it, and it doesn't there's no method, there's no formula. And it's the same with love. So this is the question then, I guess we're asking each other, and we're asking the viewers, is like, well, yeah, how do we define success and wealth and prosperity? And it seems, Ananda, just to before I keep rambling on, it seems that like amusement and whatever the contrary to that is, I don't know how we're defining that. It seems like material dreams and spiritual dreams, sometimes they can like look similar. So then how do you distinguish? How do you I guess that would be a question I'd be interested in asking the viewers, and asking yourself as well.
Yeah, if you're watching, please write in. What are your thoughts? How do you distinguish between something so-called spiritual, something so-called material? One thing I was thinking about, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He was giving class this morning, Ujwal, and we were discussing many things, but the way in which our society is, it's a society of the secondary. We emphasize the secondary so much. And when I say secondary, I mean, what's my job? What's my career? What's my family life going to be like? What's, how do I dress? How do I look? How do I speak? Like, what do people think about me? Right? These kind of secondary things become the all in all of our experience. So therefore, we look to these things for our fulfillment. When ideally, you could say, there are other areas of life wherein people in, traditional settings would find fulfillment. Finding fulfillment in an internal, more simple type of way, right? So we have this experience of so much confusion around what am I going to be? What am I going to do? Right? Because this emphasis has been put on the secondary, to find out what you're going to do for your life, right? Because you have to find a job that's going to give you fulfillment also, because that's the thing that you have to do. You're going to, like, whatever you do, that's going to have to be your fulfillment, rather than being able to connect honestly with our gifts, with kind of the simple reality of what we can and want to do, right? Connecting with that, having the mind become, easeful, and then experiencing a deeper fulfillment as the primary, as the kind of the center to the circumference of my life, the circumference of all, my job and all the kind of external things about what I do in the world, to then really know that the fulfillment is coming from the center. It's coming from my connection. And I would say, when I think of success, this is what I start to think about. I start to think about, okay, how committed can I be to where I find my fulfillment in the
Mm.
center? Did that make sense? I felt like
Yeah.
I was rambling a little, but
No. I mean, I'm a very visual person, so
hmm,
I'm just thinking it seems like we have these two things. We have like primary and secondary
hmm,
aspects to life.
hmm,
And, I guess what you're saying is we need to think about where we're placing, what's a priority? Is the secondary a priority or is the primary a priority?
hmm,
Right. And the secondary being more external affairs and the primary being more internal affairs.
hmm.
Um, so I find that very pertinent for sure.
Well, because as per your question, not to interrupt, but there's this idea of like, we talk about wealth and poverty, right? These kind of assumed, uh, diametrically opposed ideas:
Uh-huh.
being poor or being rich, being
Uh-huh.
wealthy, right? So, a great teacher, Radha Swami, he said, the poverty and wealth have equal opportunity to make one self-absorbed,
Mm.
right? They have equal opportunity to make one self-absorbed. So then, like you're pointing out, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but you pointed out kind of these,
Rational.
primary and this, yeah, the primary and the secondary, which is the one that we set priority for,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we have this, I guess it's like, would you say it's a necessity to be absorbed? It's kind of like almost, it's almost like a necessity for us to be absorbed, whether it's, we can see it in all behavior, whether it's eating or sleeping or playing video games or music or
Mm,
spirituality or making money, or it seems that this is like a natural kind of propulsion
mm.
almost within people, is to be absorbed in something. So
I think it's
that
inevitable.
it's inevitable. That's the word I'm looking for. And we think of wealth and poverty, both can be absorbing, but also ecstasy and depression, you
Hmm.
know like someone that's very melancholy, someone that you could even say someone that might be experiencing like depression, that's very absorbing.
Hmm.
And similarly, someone that is experiencing the heights, actually,
Mm,
Ananda, the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about there are two types of people in the world that
mm,
are happy.
mm,
The Bhagavad Gita says one type of person is the um, complete all-out hedonist, just like there's no limitations to enjoyment, and they will do
mm,
anything they can to experience the pinnacles of pleasure. So
mm,
that's one type of happy person. And then the other type of happy person is the the liberated soul, the completely like renounced soul.
mm,
There is not an inkling of hedonism in their life, and they are dedicated to the spiritual path. But then the Bhagavad Gita says 99% of the people are somewhere in between. That's the problem. Like
yeah.
most of us don't identify with being all out hedonists, and most of us aren't like self-realized souls. We're somewhere in this really awkward, on this really awkward fence.
Mm,
So and when you're on that fence, it's like, is it even, can I even be bothered to have dreams?
mm,
Like,
yeah.
uh, so yeah. Anyway, I hope that resonates with what you're saying.
Yeah, and how to take that, and we had mentioned before, like when we were speaking before this podcast, we were talking about this idea that you wanted to bring up, and I was so excited that you brought it up, because it's a concept that when I first heard about it also, um, I realized it was such a valuable concept to meditate on, throughout
Uh-huh.
my experience of life, and that is of the crucible, right? There's a book that
Oh
we
yeah.
both love, Falling Upward. And so I think of that in that 99% experience of happiness and distress, and a nice mix, a nice mix
A
of
nice
both.
mix.
A
Yeah.
nice mix, it's like a nice combination there. And it catches you by surprise. You're like, oh, here's what I think is some happiness, and then you take a sip and you're like, woo, something else. So, that crucible of our human experience. Do you want to share kind of? We read this book. We've not together, but we've read this book. We've each read this book
Together.
together, called "Falling Upward" by Richard Rohr. Powerful book. Anyone that's listening, highly recommend it. It's a book that really speaks to our human experience in transition.
It just cuts through everything, doesn't it? It's like
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
BS. It's just like this is it.
Yeah. So the crucible. Could you share kind of?
Yeah. Well, the definition given in the book is Richard Rohr, the author, says a crucible is a thing into which you pour molten metal, very, very hot metal, like lava. So it's like liquid metal. It's a thing into which you pour molten metal, and it remains in the crucible until it cools down and becomes a suitable instrument or tool, whatever shape this crucible is in. So there are two ways of looking at this when you apply it to like ontology or metaphysics or spirituality, whatever. There's external crucibles and there's internal crucibles, like an external crucible could be an institution, an organization, an ashram, marriage, any relationship,
any type
really,
of commitment,
any responsibility, commitment. These all have potential to be crucibles, right? But it's uncomfortable for that molten metal. It's like this boiling like lava of potential being held in place, and all it wants to do is just like melt and burn everything, and so it's very uncomfortable. But if you can allow yourself to be held in this crucible for long enough, then you cool down and you become a suitable tool or instrument for whoever, for the relationship, whether that's with a partner or an institution or with God. So that's one way, and then the other crucible is like internally, and trying to hold yourself, I guess, accountable or responsible to equilibrium, to steadiness. The mind, I often think of the mind like this kind of, gloopy conglomeration of like
gloopy.
yeah, it's like this thing that's just
Yeah.
it's just everywhere all of the time, but then holding it in one place is so difficult, to just hold the mind in one place and allow it to like become steady, and then allow it to actually kind of serve us and help us toward achieving our goals, achieving our big dreams or small dreams, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking how that brings us right back to that point of big dreams, like to have a big dream, because I can get impatient with my small steps that I have to take. Right, my guru often says, if you want to write a book, what's the first thing that you have to do? And it's like, well, you gotta find a publisher, gotta find a printer, and no, you have to find a pen, right? You just have to like start writing it, or you have to open a document or something, right? There's more of an immediate step. And when the natural energy, the natural creative energy of the living entity, right? It's this kind of this is just kind of coming to me now. It's not such a fleshed out idea, but it's this idea of like, it's this unbounded kind of desire to increase in a way that may be reckless and dangerous, right? To try and overcome really our capacity. In other words, just as the molten metal, the molten lava, is unusable because it's so hot, right? Not only is it unusable, but anything that it touches, it catches fire, right? It creates destruction. So in a similar way, when the unbounded energy of the living entity, which has a function, right? At least the Vedic paradigm shows that the function of the living entity is to engage in service, right? To be able to uplift and serve. So anything outside of that in this material world, that's where we find the corruption, the violence, the death, the evil, the pain, the suffering. It's trying to go against that innate nature, trying to take rather than give, trying to exploit rather than serve and support. Right? So by taking that unbounded creative energy and being able to put it into a crucible, right, of whatever that looks like, right? There, as you were bringing up, there's many categories of crucibles. How that then takes that unbounded creative energy and makes it usable, and makes it glorious, makes it shiny, makes it brilliant.
Yeah, potential needs an avenue. And a similar example is the horse. The horse has what they call blinders, or is that what they're called? I
think so. Yeah,
I'm not
blinders.
really a horse guy. I like them. Got nothing against them.
You don't ride horses?
I don't.
I've never met you in person, but I've always imagined you a person to ride horses.
Yeah, you say that as a joke, but I think most people do see me as that kind of guy who rides horses, topless.
Okay, we'll take a little poll. Who thinks Keli rides horses? Please like the video or write in the comment section. Oh, blinkers, your mom says.
Blinkers, yeah. What did I say? Blinders.
Blinders, blinkers.
Well, blinders is probably this, and blinkers is this. But anyway, the point stands. Let's not go on a horse tangent. The horse has potential, so much potential, but it needs parameters. It needs an avenue, and then it can be like an effective horse.
Well, I often think of jazz. Right? I like jazz. I often think of it.
You got the right scarf for it.
No, but with jazz, it's considered some of the most expressive music in the world, right? In many ways, it's music that has broken the boundaries of what human beings have thought we can do with sound in so many ways. And at the same time, jazz is one of the most, you could say, restricted art forms, or art, restricted types of music. Could you say anything about that? Just about jazz's relationship, its creative relationship with structure and form? Oh, he lost you. At least I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear him? Oh no! Can you hear me? Now we can hear you.
Okay. My fancy mic didn't serve me for long enough.
Oh!
Let me see if I can plug my less fancy mic in.
Okay.
Are you going to be patient with me?
I'll be patient.
Okay.
So meanwhile, your mom made a really nice comment. She said, material success for me is that I survived and I can be comfortable with little pain in retirement. I survived the turmoil of life to retirement and enjoyed the journey. Spiritual success is to be in a place to serve others and to let go and trust in God and feel at peace and give up the driving wheel and become a passenger. Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
It's quite enlightened for a bum, isn't it?
Every time that I've ever seen her and heard her, I reflect upon that. I said,
you've got to be careful. She's another self-aware square, actually.
She's a self-aware square?
She's a self-aware square. Yeah. On the outside, she looks like, just a normal kind of gal, but actually there's a lot going on the inside.
We love our self-aware squares. Self-aware squares make the world go around.
Or square. They make the world go square.
Okay, you were telling us about I threw the idea that I had about jazz.
Yes. I do have something to say.
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say that the scariest part of the creative process, and I hope there are some creative people watching, the scariest part of the creative process is a blank canvas, an empty notebook,
I was gonna try.
You're not gonna pull up a rabbit now from
No. I was just I was trying to think of an adjective for just a guitar, an unplayed guitar or a silent guitar.
If you're a recording artist, then like a blank
empty
Logic session or
yeah.
But this is the scariest thing because it's like there's just so much potential here. So actually parameters they allow for a lot more expression really, because they give you an avenue for your potential. So yeah, this is what we're kind of trying to get across. So we're trying to convey this idea that it's positive to have parameters, it's actually, it could be necessary to have some form of crucible in your life. But then I guess, Ananda, a big part of this topic as well, which I really want to discuss, is patience and forgiveness, especially oneself. I was hearing who was it, Mahatma Prabhu, maybe the other day. He was saying if you can't be patient and forgiving of yourself, if you can't be accepting of yourself, it'll be very difficult to be forgiving, patient, and accepting with others. And that's been a huge lesson for me since the whole COVID thing and lockdown thing, which I also, as a side point, I think has been a crucible for many people, locked in there wherever they are. But yeah, that's a huge thing to learn, and it's can be a lifelong lesson. It's learning to accept, forgive, and be patient with yourself. And you realize the more you do that, the easier it is to be that way with other people as well. The more you can do it for yourself.
Well, and the thing about going after big dreams, right, is trusting our ability to do that, right? So I think of trust also, not only patience, but trust in how sensitive. Recently, I was talking with a coach of mine and discussing this idea that we make commitments all the time to our dreams or to other people or whatever it may be, and if I don't follow through on that, it really erodes away at my trust that I have in myself to follow through with anything. It may be subtle, and it may not be until I'm really trying something big that the self-doubt starts to scream at me, and I start to see how much I've defeated and depleted my own trust in myself and my ability to do things. And in speaking with my coach, I had this realization that, well, when I do follow through, when I make commitments and I follow through, building that trust, at least for me, my experience is building that trust is exponential. Whereas what may decrease my trust because I make small but not really small, I make commitments that I don't follow through with, right? When I make a commitment and I keep it, right? To really celebrate that, so that exponentially my trust and my conviction, my patience will then increase with myself and in my pursuance of big dreams.
So you could almost say that commitment is a catalyst if dealt with properly.
Yeah, commitments a crucible, a catalyst for really following and achieving big dreams, whether it be in whatever field, right? I've been recently reflecting on this idea of well, just kind of meditating on not differentiating between, this idea of like, oh, that's material, that's spiritual, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, it just seems kind of basic. I believe that reality is much more nuanced, right?
Mm.
That what is material, what is spiritual, it is our intended desire
Mm.
around that thing, around that person, around that relationship, around that activity.
Mm.
That what is my intention uh, motivating me towards? So in terms of like big dreams, like what is a material dream, right? What's the intention of that dream? If my intention is to just exploit others, right?
Mm.
Then I would say that is naturally going to set you up to be dissatisfied, because there's never going to be enough. There's never going to be uh, a point at which one experiences real satisfaction. Suprasidity in the Sanskrit language, it talks about, supreme satisfaction. That's
Mm.
unending. It's not limited. It's not restricted to circumstance,
Better
right?
than Netflix.
Better than Netflix.
Even better than Netflix. Can you
so
believe it?
so so I lost my train of thought. We were talking about,
Oh, don't let me do that to you again. Sorry.
oh no,
Supracidity, supreme happiness.
supersedities, like full satisfaction.
Mm.
Um. Anyway, so because I was talking about the idea of kind of just, I feel like it can be haphazard. I've seen in spiritual communities and myself as a monk, and it could be a little bit haphazard. Oh, material, spiritual, kind of. And there's a point at which the black and white may be important, right? But
Mm.
I'm convicted that there's this ability to grow into understanding both and, rather
Mm.
than this or that, right? But
Mm.
both and understanding how that is.
Yes, definitely. Resonating with that as well, we have this idea of a spectrum, right?
Mm,
You were talking about wealth and poverty, happiness and depression. We can also see other opposites, like hot and cold, day and night, whatever it is.
mm,
But then actually, it could be more beneficial for us to see these things on a spectrum, you know?
mm,
Like hot and cold aren't opposites. They're
mm,
just different degrees of a spectrum.
mm,
There's incremental um, segments
mm,
to something being hot and something being cold. You
mm,
know, there's similarly a spectrum of wealth and poverty, and
mm,
there's a spectrum of happiness and distress. So I definitely agree with you. Reality is more nuanced,
mm,
um, but really, I couldn't agree with you more on the point of intention.
mm,
That's kind of like the how would you say, the thermometer, the measuring stick
mm,
of success,
mm,
because you might have a seemingly material big dream or a seemingly spiritual big dream,
mm,
but what's the hidden aspect? What's the intention behind that? Right? It's
mm,
not that having being it's not that being the richest person in the world necessitates that you're a hedonist,
mm,
right? Maybe you're the richest person in the world, but maybe you're doing incredible, benevolent, charitable acts and helping to uplift people and share spiritual wisdom and knowledge, right?
mm,
Um, or you could be, in complete poverty,
mm,
and there could be a different intention there.
mm,
Some of the people who have the least facility in the world are the most charitable people,
mm,
or perhaps they're the opposite, which is why they're in the situation they're in.
mm,
But yeah, that's a huge point. I would say, Ananda, is like the intention,
mm,
actually seeing deeper than someone's achievements, accolades, image, identity,
mm,
and actually starting to look, what's the intention of this person? What are my intentions as
mm.
well?
I'm looking at a friend of our, or I don't know if I've ever met Michael Epper, but he said, like rocks making the river more beautiful. Then he said, or also what they do for one another. Right? So I was appreciating this. I think he's probably commenting at the point when we were discussing the crucible, kind of discussing that, and thinking about this example of rocks, making the river more beautiful. You know, the river polishes and shines rocks, right? And the rocks shape and direct, big enough rocks shape and direct how the river winds, right? He's confirming he's saying obstacles for the first one. Yeah, and it comes to this idea of like obstacle consciousness or goal consciousness, right? Where is my consciousness situated? Is it situated in the obstacles? Am I seeing the things in front of me as obstructions to really what I'm looking for? Or am I seeing that everything coming into my path becomes a step towards that bigger dream, that bigger goal, that bigger vision, right? And that's when I can maintain goal consciousness, right? I'm not dragged down by the so-called obstacles. They actually become exciting, right?
Sure.
Like in sales, it's like if you can get someone to actually say a no, like to say no, that's a transformative moment, right? Because we don't want to say no, or if we're like on the fence, we're like, oh, I'll think about it. But if in that moment we can on the other end of that, you can get someone to say, no, I don't want this. You've given them, like, you've empowered them with choice, right? And being able to in many circumstances like that, like the obstacles become a reason for celebration, a reason for we're moving forward.
Wow. Yeah. And so whatever dream you have, be it big or small, you are going to have to take some steps to get there, right? Whether they're big or small steps. But it sounds like what you're saying is it's completely due to our perception, whether we see something as an opportunity or an obstacle. You could say that within every opportunity there's an obstacle, within every obstacle there's an opportunity, depending on like your perspective. For sure. But then before you actually make those steps, I think you have to check your intention first. That seems like quite an important initial step.
I'm thinking I want to ask all our viewers. It's saying how we have about 17 viewers right now. So wherever you're viewing from, on whatever platform, thank you. And also please write in some reflections from if you've been here throughout this conversation, or however long you've been here, anything that you've heard that really,
if you just want to
to
comment on Ananda's scarf or something,
or
that's
the
fine as well.
cool shadows that are showing up on my face. I should get a tattoo, huh?
Wow.
I look like one of those sadhus in the Himalayas.
Yeah, I was going to say you look like something out of The Lion King, but
yeah. Dave Amadova has a question. He said, Keli, how did it feel to put down so many songs this year?
That's how did it feel? How did it feel? It's really interesting, actually, because I don't think about how I feel very much these days. I've actually just started trying to feel how I feel more, and I used to think about how I feel a lot, and it used to get me in so much trouble, Ananda. Yeah, I mean, I have spent the last 10 months just trying to be as prolific as possible in many regards, not just with like songwriting and creativity, but I've tried to read a lot and study a lot and dedicate myself to spiritual practice and dive deep into life in some way. And the crucible of COVID has helped that, definitely. But yeah, I guess for me, having an opportunity to, like I guess this is further conveying the importance of like parameters in life, because I've very much had parameters. For example, the 4 walls that I haven't left for the last 10 months. They've been wonderful parameters, but in these 4 walls over the last 10 months, I've composed like, over 100 songs or something. But it's just because it's held me in this one place where I've had to like deal with myself, So it's not actually like, how do I feel about the songs I write or the creativity that I go through? It's more like, how do I feel about life? And that's what I try to express through the songs. And if I don't express that through the songs, then it's just a crazy me in 4 walls, So yeah, but I hope I hope that answers something, and I hope there are other people that have perhaps gone through a similar experience over the past few months, wherever they've been crucibled. I've seen like so much creative expressions, people diving into new skills, trying to make different opportunities out of obstacles, and it's been such a far out few months for sure.
And I think that the way that we can turn to our innate creative expression, just as human beings, and I think you were highlighting a lot of that happened for many people this year when they had extra time on their hands. What did they do? They started to reinvest in some of these creative outlets, right? And I think, there's a calling for everyone. We all have some creative energy, right? We've been allotted some creative energy, and to be encouraged to use that, to be encouraged to cultivate that. And when I say creative energy, I don't just mean writing songs or painting a picture or, writing poetry even, but that creative energy of how do I interact with the world around me, right? Remembering to play, remembering the natural, every living entity in the world plays, right? It's the nature of the soul to play. Right? There's this video I just recently saw. It was this panda bear just sledding on its back down a hill. There was no evolutionary reason besides the panda bear just having fun, right? It's play is natural, and you see that with children, you see that with adults, you see that with animals. Play is just natural. I remember when I was in India, and you've been to Govardhan Hill?
Yes. And I can just say, like, every good story starts with those words. I remember when I went to India, like, all of the best stories I've ever heard start like that. So.
This isn't such a story, but it's more of just an observation. At Govardhan Hill, so many animals in India: cows, monkeys, dogs, pigs, like just a plethora of animals. And I just remember one morning I was on my meditation walking, and I saw these 2 dogs just wrestling. And I was thinking, like, yeah, like every living entity is looking to connect with an innate, unbounded joy, right? And in the crucible, in our commitment, let it not be a punishment, right? Martina is asking, I didn't really get the crucible. What is the crucible? An example. Crucible, we were saying, is any type of commitment or a vessel in which you pour, the basic example or basic definition, a vessel which you pour molten metal for it to cool in order to then produce something useful, right? So we were discussing this idea of that unbounded spiritual creative energy of the living entity, being able to guide it lovingly with commitments, with things like relationships, things like anything, career, job, any type of commitment, right? And how in that crucible, it's not a punishment. I'm not. I think crucible is such an intense, like, it's a very metal word.
Let me give you the definition.
Yes,
a crucible is a ceramic or metal container in which metals or other substances may be melted or subjected to very high temperatures, so on. So it's a container in which you pour like substances that are very, very hot, and remain in the crucible long enough to cool down and become the tool or the instrument they were intended to be. Yes.
Yeah, and so what are our potential? Looking into that. What is our highest potential? And what are the crucibles that will bring me to that realization?
Like you were making an incredible point that that I don't want you to stray too far from, just in the few moments we have left, is like actually we begin to see life as not for the fight of survival, but it's the pursuit of pleasure. This is what biologists and historians and Darwinists or whoever, this is the narrative they give us, is that life is about the fight for survival. But it's not the fight for survival. It's the pursuit of pleasure. And because we want to experience pleasure, we need to survive. That's like a
primary
more
and secondary.
Exactly. That's the more comprehensive way to approach life. No one wants to just live to survive. We want to live to thrive.
Deva is asking, he said satisfying answer to his question. He said, how do we recognize parameters that hone us if we don't have them or see them yet? I think just something that just kind of came out of my mouth was, according to what our goal is, right? We find the crucible, the commitment, the container that's going to best support that. So first of all, we have to know what we want, right? I have to define what I want. I have to know what that is. And it's my conviction that when I'm very clear on what I know, what I want, right, then I'll be clear on the means to get there. I'll be clear on the container with which to contain myself in, so that I can be made and cultivated into that being of that vision that I have for myself. Do you have anything else to say on that before we? Because we have basically what we want to do is every week, or I think we're gonna start bi-weekly. We'll see, but we're gonna be consistent.
I'm sure the demand for this will be out of the roofs.
If you want to see this every week, like as many times as you can and share and comment your face off, like make your, just let us know. Because we want to be with you. We want to, we're doing this as a service. Boudica's mission really is to connect the experience rather than just the kind of idea or the philosophy of what it means to live a life of devotion, the experience of that.
Read the vision thing out from the beginning again.
Our vision thing?
Our vision thing. Everyone should hear that and know
We're discovering our creative potential within the lifestyle, science, and culture of bhakti.
The lifestyle.
The science.
The culture.
Of bhakti. And what we want to do is we'll have live performances, we'll have guest artists, guest speakers, in-depth discussions. Today was kind of our inaugural in-depth discussion, really just Keli and I talk on the phone all the time, and now we're just like, might as well just record it. Might as well just put it online. So we apologize if that wasn't what you were looking for, but that's what you got. But a lot of exciting things coming up. One of those exciting things is we're going to have performances. So today, I've asked Keli if he could perform a song. The title of today's episode is Big Dreams, Small Steps, and he actually has a song called Big Dreams, Small Steps. Do you have anything you want to share about that song with us, or would you be happy to perform that for us?
I would love to perform it. It's only a short song, and it's fairly it speaks for itself. But just to finish as well what you were saying.
Yeah.
Clarity is key. And whatever your dreams are, be they big, be they small, be they material, be they spiritual, if your steps are big or if your steps are small, clarity is key to achieving our goals and our dreams. And that's like why we're here as well, Ananda. I think that's why we're trying to do this podcast, is to get clarity ourselves and share that clarity with others as well.
Yeah.
So 100%. Yes.
Okay, so Big dreams, small steps. Share and like. Go to the Boudica page. Follow. Get updates on anytime Boudica goes live. There's so many wonderful offerings that are in the making. We're going to be on Thursdays, generally at 3. Actually, at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So please always tune in. And if there's anything else that you really want to see from Boudica, let them know. And there's just unlimited possibilities. So Keli Ananda will be performing Big Dreams, Small Steps.
If you've got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there. If you've got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there. You'll find your stairway to the stars. Aim for the moon and up on Mars. If you want gold, you got to dig. Your mind may be small, but your dreams are big. If you've got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there.
Oh, oh!
If you've got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there, get there.
Oh, oh, oh!
You'll find your stairway to the stars. Aim for the moon and up on Mars. If you want gold, you got to dig. Your mind may be small, but your dreams are big. If you got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there. Oh. If you've got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there, get there, get there. Big dreams, small steps, small steps, small steps to get there. If you got big dreams, you gotta take small steps to get there.
Is right.
Good fun.
Good fun. Thank you, Keli.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in. Be sure, like we said, to share this, like it. Really, let's keep this momentum going. There's so many wonderful things being offered. Yes, Keli.
Ananda,
Yes.
are we going to have someone else next week then? Oh,
Yes.
next time.
Yes, we will.
So there'll be 3 people.
There'll be 3 people.
A mystery person.
A mystery person. I have someone in mind.
Okay, great.
So thank you all for tuning in. This is Keli Ananda for the Take Note podcast. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.